I have something to tell you. London is weird. Okay, maybe not, but it's certainly different compared to what I'm used to. Culture shock is an unavoidable reality when you move abroad. And today I'll be breaking down some of the things that we've noticed since moving to London, England from Canada just over a year ago. Yoo-hoo, welcome back. I've had a full year to cook up this episode, and in honor of our 1 year move-iversary, I've put together a little montage of our experiences, so stick around to the end of this episode to check that out. Before I get into sharing our culture shock experiences, I just want to put a little context in place here. London is an impressively diverse city in terms of people, languages spoken, and cultural influences. So moving to a small English village, for example, would likely feel very different compared to moving to London. Although some things may apply to the rest of England or the UK, this is a very London-centric episode. Our first cultural and practical adjustment started well before we moved to the UK. What the heck do you do with all your electronics? Now, of course, you can purchase adapters, and we did. And we brought them over to London along with our electronics that we didn't want to replace. However, you still have these moments where you plug that item in and you're like, is this going to be the time that it blows up? And once you start purchasing electronics here or you move into a flat, you need to learn a whole new set of electrical rules. Like, we have 2 and 3 prongs in Canada as well, and it goes the other way around. So although this is clearly designed that this is the top and this is the bottom and this is how it goes into the wall, you know what I do? I walk up and I try to plug it in like this. It's been a year. And it's not just that. Electrical outlets here also have on and off switches. It's actually really smart. It's a really good built-in safety feature, and it's also prevented me from making a cup of tea for like the first 10 minutes of being in our flat, because I couldn't figure out how to turn the electrical on that particular wall.
There's something wrong with this wall.
I've also gotten in fights with Google. Google wasn't listening because Google wasn't turned on because I accidentally turned off the switch. I also find it very odd that I can no longer blow dry my hair in the bathroom. The reason you can't do it is because there is only an electrical outlet for shavers in the bathroom. It's also, in our flat, it's like inside the cupboard. I understand the safety measures. However, I don't love blow drying my hair here. Here in London, and I'm sure elsewhere in the UK and all over the world, we have hard water. I didn't fully appreciate the impact that hard water would have on appliances like your kettle. The fact that it's written into your rental agreement that you will prevent the buildup of hard water residue, water stains, the impacts of hard water on your hair. Now, the good news is, of course, there are practical solutions to this, and like all of those things are happening, so that's great. Just didn't expect it. Another adjustment in our home has been that most flats and houses here do not have air conditioning or aircon, which most of the time it's fine. But for that 1 week in the summer where it gets really hot, it's tough. It's hard to eat, sleep, work, focus, concentrate, all of that. But you know, it's London, so it doesn't last very long. Learning the UK version of common words and phrases takes a long time. Air conditioning, aircon. Parking lot, car park. Bangs, fringe. Vacation, holiday. Like, I'm going on holiday. Which, by the way, doesn't mean that someone's headed to a beach to sip pina coladas. They're just not working, which is nice. But sometimes it's not a different word or a different phrase used, it's the same word but pronounced differently. My personal favorite is weekend. Oh, can't wait for the weekend. That sounds so great. The one I don't love though is this word, French derivative. Usually referencing fish, some kind of meat. So in Canada, we would say a filet of fish, for example, right? Like the McDonald's filet of fish. Never had that, don't want to. Here, the more common pronunciation I hear is, are you ready for it? Fillet. It hurts a little bit. I won't be using that. Weekend, sure. Fillet, no. The way that names and places are pronounced versus how they are spelt there's a huge discrepancy there. Sometimes you say it the way that it's spelled. Other times it is a completely different word. If I were to read this word and try to pronounce it, I would probably say Greenwich. Now that I say that, I sound ridiculous saying Greenwich, but that's how it's spelled. It's not Greenwich, it's Greenwich. You just listen and learn. So once you've found your fillet of fish, you could take that to the self-checkout. Here, self-checkout is very commonplace. It is the preferred way to shop. There are stores here with self-checkout systems where you just take your items, dump them into a metal bin, it just reads the tags, and that's it. There are, however, nuances to this, subtleties, depending on which store you go to. You gotta get familiar with the self-checkout system because they're not all created equal. We do have self-checkout services in Canada. They're just not as widely used. They've taken longer to catch on. Personally, I love it. You know, don't have to make conversation, can just get my groceries and go on with my day. In most, but not all, parts of Canada, we are endlessly adding tax, 13% onto everything we purchase. Here, you don't need to worry about that. VAT is included. And I love this. The price that I see on the tag is the price that I pay. I'm no longer incessantly like $15.99 times 1.13, $18.07. Too pricey. What I do find interesting though is the percentage of VAT or tax is different depending on what it is that you're purchasing. For example, there's a different amount of tax added to hot food versus cold food. There are some noticeable differences in restaurant etiquette here. And just as VAT is included in prices, gratuity is included in your bill. Now, what's interesting about this as a North American is I don't have the ability to communicate to you how I felt about your service and the quality of food based on the percentage of tip I'm leaving you. I have yet to go to a restaurant in London where the service team does a pronounced, like purposeful quality check. I mean, they bring your meal, they ask you, does everything look all right? Do you need any sauces? And then they're just gone. They don't come back to the table until like you obviously need a refill on your drink. Oh, hey, or they're offering you pudding. And unless you've made a booking with a particular time slot, a start and an end time, where your server will bring your bill over and remind you politely that you need to leave your table in the next 5 minutes, you need to learn the UK universal sign for the bill or the check. The bill, the check. Coming back to water for a second, you need to specifically ask for tap water. Most places charge for any kind of water that's not tap water, like still water, sparkling water. And sometimes they don't give you the option. Depends on how posh the place is. Learned that one the hard way a couple times. Pub culture is a thing here, and I'm not complaining about it. Any day is a good day to go to the pub. Sometimes it's just for a pint. Usually it turns into more. Typically, people alternate buying rounds for the table. You also have the ability here to walk into one, take a look around. There's nowhere to sit. You got two options. You can grab a pint and stand outside, because you can do that. Or you can just go to the next one, which is probably just around the corner. Some pubs serve food, some don't. You can order Uber Eats to some pubs or bring in takeaway. There are pub quizzes. You can order Sunday roast at a pub. And sometimes, depending on where you are, last call feels really early, like 10, 11 p.m. At least it feels early to me. But some places give you a takeaway cup for your pint that you haven't finished yet. So you can leave with a roadie because you can drink in public here. This has to be the one culture shock that has taken me quite a while to get used to. I've really enjoyed picnic culture here, being able to just walk into your supermarket, grab a drink, crack it open, sit by the river. It's really nice. It also feels like I'm doing something wrong. It's not that people don't do it in Canada, they just are very creative in how they do it, or risk getting a ticket or having your drink poured out in front of you on the beach. Another thing I've noticed in public is how people navigate personal space. When it comes to greeting one another here, if it is somebody new, somebody that you are not acquainted to, generally you are met with a handshake. It's very rare that people hug you. When in Canada, it's actually not that uncommon to be hugging somebody that you've met for the first time. And in other cultures, like when I lived in Costa Rica, we had to get used to being kissed on the cheek when you're first meeting somebody. So there's a level of personal space in greetings. However, on the sidewalk or pavement or footpath or whatever you want to call it, totally different story. I have a feeling this is a London thing. Higher population, people are busy, the tube system, etc. In preparing for today's episode, I compiled a pretty long list of topics to cover. So if you enjoyed this content and you want to see a part 2 of culture shocks in the future, let me know in the comments. I'd love to learn about some culture shocks that you've experienced either here in the UK or abroad. Let's hear some stories. You know, I haven't really taken a moment to appreciate in full how much has changed for Eric and I in the past year. Sure, there have been some tears, some bad days, some distress calls home along the way. We've learned some tough lessons. We've had some incredibly fun and interesting experiences. And I asked Eric what he appreciates most about our time here in London. He said the tube. Moving to London a year ago was exciting, and for us, it's been worth it. And we just signed a rental agreement for the next 2 years, so there's that. Yes, Elton, you're coming. As always, take care of yourselves and one another. And now let's enjoy a little walk down memory lane.